Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more amazing HFY stories. Hit the bell icon to get notified about our latest uploads. The challenge? The starry sky stretched out like an endless tapestry, adorned with nebulae and distant suns, each far away yet close enough to send a soft glow across the alien world of Lurith. Towering alien spires pierced the atmosphere, and the lush, verdant jungles of this distant planet seemed to breathe with the pulse of an ancient power. The alien kingdom was preparing for a grand tournament, one that would decide the fate of their civilization's relationship with humanity. The alien princess, Zithra, stood at the royal balcony overlooking the arena below. Her emerald skin shimmered under the twin suns as her eyes, large and luminescent, glowed with a curiosity that transcended her royal duties. This was a momentous occasion, an event that could either strengthen the alliance between the Lurithians and Earth or shatter the fragile peace that had been formed after centuries of conflict. The competition was unlike any other, a battle of strength and will pitting the fiercest warriors from all across the galaxy against one another. Though she was an esteemed princess of Lurith, Zithra's heart was full of doubt. Her people had never fought alongside humans before, and she knew nothing of their fighting prowess. The last time the Lurithian warriors had faced an Earthling in combat, they had been left in awe of the humans' raw power and resilience. Zithra, however, had never seen such a fight herself. That was until now. The announcer's voice echoed through the stadium as a single human warrior entered the arena. His name was Captain Aiden Ross, a decorated soldier from Earth known for his brutal combat skills and unmatched strength. His mission had been clear: win the tournament, impress the alien delegates, and secure an alliance with the Lurithian people. But Aiden had no idea how deeply this fight would affect him or the galaxy. As he strode confidently into the arena, Zithra's breath caught in her chest. She had seen warriors before, Lurithian warriors strong and fast, but this human was different. His frame was solid, muscles rippling under his tight combat suit. He had an aura of quiet intensity, a stillness that seemed to draw all attention to him. The way he walked, with a soldier's grace, exuded a sense of unwavering determination. Zithra's heart raced at the thought of witnessing such a specimen in combat. Aiden's eyes scanned the surroundings, locking onto Zithra as she stood poised above him on the balcony. She was unlike any woman he had ever seen before. Her alien beauty was almost otherworldly, her sharp features softened by her glowing skin, and her eyes, large and deep, seemed to pierce through his very soul. For a moment, Aiden's focus wavered, but he quickly shook off the distraction. This was no time for weakness. He was here to prove himself. The challenge was about to begin. Aiden's opponent, a hulking reptilian beast known as Zalor, stepped forward with a menacing growl. His massive form towered over Aiden, a body of scales and muscle with claws that could rend through armor. The Lurithian warriors around the arena roared in approval. Zalor was undefeated in the tournament and had no doubt that victory would be his. Zithra too watched with interest. She had seen many fighters face Zalor and fall. No one had dared challenge the beast for years. But as the two warriors locked eyes, she saw something in Aiden Ross that no one had ever seen before. A fire that burned brightly, undeterred by the enormity of his foe. The match began with the clang of weapons. Zalor lunged forward with a roar, his massive fists swinging in wide arcs. The crowd gasped as Aiden deftly sidestepped, his movements fast and calculated, evading each of Zalor's attacks with the precision of a well-trained soldier. The human warrior's agility was surprising. He was quick, faster than any Lurithian had expected. Zithra leaned forward, her curiosity piqued. She had heard rumors about human soldiers, but witnessing it firsthand was a revelation. Earthlings, despite their relative youth in the galaxy, possessed an inner strength, a raw power that allowed them to stand toe-to-toe with the galaxy's fiercest creatures. Zithra had always thought of the Lurithian warriors as the apex of combat, but Aiden was proving her wrong bit by bit. Aiden's eyes narrowed, his expression hardening as he surveyed the fight. He was no stranger to combat, but Zalor's brute strength was unlike anything he had faced before. The reptilian warrior's massive form was both a gift and a curse, powerful but slow. Aiden knew that if he could outmaneuver Zalor, he could find an opening. The alien beast swung again, but this time, Aiden anticipated the movement. He dropped low, using his legs to propel himself upward with a swift, forceful strike to Zalor's midsection. The impact was thunderous and the creature staggered back, momentarily stunned. The Lurithian crowd gasped. It was rare for anyone to get through Zalor's defenses, let alone land a blow that caused him to falter. Zithra's heart raced as she watched, a sense of awe growing within her. This human, this Captain Ross, was unlike any warrior she had seen before. His determination, his strength, it was something she had not expected. As the battle raged on, Zithra's thoughts swirled. She had come to witness a mere display of strength, but what she saw before her was something more. This was not just a fight, it was a testament to the human spirit, a force that could not be easily broken. No matter how many times Zalor struck, Aiden Ross refused to give up. It was as if he were driven by something beyond the physical. And then, with a final, decisive move, Aiden delivered a crushing blow to Zalor's side. The beast roared in pain, staggering to the ground, unable to rise. The arena fell silent. Zithra's eyes widened in disbelief. The human warrior had done it, he had defeated Zalor. For a moment all was still. The alien princess's mind raced, processing what she had just witnessed. Aiden Ross was not only a warrior. He was a force of nature. The aftermath. The silence in the arena was deafening. The alien spectators, who had spent countless years observing combat that only reinforced their view of Lurithian superiority, could not believe what they had just witnessed. A human, a species that was supposed to be beneath them, had done the unthinkable. Captain Aiden Ross had not only survived against the might of Zalor, but he had defeated the seemingly invincible beast. For the first time in centuries, the Lurithians were forced to confront the reality that humans were not just allies, but a formidable force in their own right. Zithra remained still on her balcony, her eyes fixed on the fallen creature below. Zalor lay sprawled across the arena floor, struggling to regain his footing, but the fight had left him broken. His massive chest heaved in pain, and his reptilian eyes flickered with confusion. He had never been defeated before. Never. The fall of such a mighty warrior was a blow to the very fabric of Lurithian pride. And yet, here stood a human, bloodied, bruised, but standing tall. Aiden wiped the sweat from his brow, his breath coming in short bursts. His body ached, every muscle protesting from the intense combat, but there was no time to rest. The victory was his, but the challenge was far from over. The crowd erupted into applause, the sound resonating through the arena like thunder. Zithra felt the shock ripple through her as she processed the weight of what had just happened. The applause was not just for Aiden, it was for humanity itself. For a moment, Aiden allowed himself a small smile, but it quickly faded. He was a soldier, not a showman. His mind was already turning to what came next. He had not come to the tournament for fame or glory, but for the future of Earth and its people. The mission was simple: win and prove to the galaxy that humanity was a force to be reckoned with. But what he hadn't expected was how much he had just proven to himself. The announcer's voice boomed through the arena, calling Aiden forward. The crowd quieted and all eyes turned to the human warrior. The air was thick with tension, and even Zithra could feel the weight of the moment. This was more than a victory, it was a defining moment in galactic history. As Aiden approached the center of the arena, he caught Zithra's gaze again. This time it was not fleeting. Their eyes locked, and for a moment, it felt as though the whole galaxy had disappeared. There was something in her eyes, an unspoken recognition. Acknowledgement. He had earned her respect, but more than that, he had captured her attention. Zithra's heart raced as she watched him. The human warrior's unwavering resolve had captivated her in ways she couldn't fully understand. She had always been told that Lurithians were the greatest warriors in the universe, but Aiden's strength, his spirit, had shattered that belief. The thought lingered in her mind like a question without an answer. What else could humanity be capable of? Captain Aiden Ross, the announcer continued, his voice thick with reverence. You have proven yourself a warrior of unparalleled skill and courage. It is my honor to declare you the winner of this match, and by extension, a symbol of the strength and potential of Earth. May this day mark the beginning of a new era for our people. The crowd erupted into cheers once again, and Zithra found herself clapping along, albeit more out of duty than true enthusiasm. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her. This victory, this human victory, was the beginning of something new, something that could change the very course of Lurithian history. As Aiden stood in the center of the arena, the weight of the declaration settled in. He had won, but the price of victory was often more than one could anticipate. What came next? How would the Lurithians respond to a human warrior who had just brought their mightiest champion to the ground? He knew that the tournament was only the beginning, and that the political games would be far more complex than any battle. Before he could contemplate his next move, a voice cut through the air. Zithra. Her presence was commanding even from the distance between them. Captain Ross, she called, her voice smooth yet filled with authority. Approach. Aiden turned, his eyes meeting hers once more. There was no mistaking the command in her voice. Without hesitation he began to walk toward her, each step deliberate. As he ascended the steps of the royal platform, Zithra's gaze never wavered from him. Her intense eyes seemed to pierce through him, searching for something. Aiden was used to intense scrutiny, but this felt different. It wasn't judgment, but curiosity. When he reached the top, Zithra stood before him. She was smaller than him in stature, but there was a quiet power about her, an energy that made him feel both aware of his own humanity and the immense differences between them. She was a princess, a leader of a great empire, and he was just one soldier. But in this moment, those distinctions seemed irrelevant. Zithra studied him for a long moment before speaking again. You are not like the others. You fight with a ferocity and a skill that I have not seen before. It is impressive. Aiden's jaw tightened, but he kept his composure. I didn't come here to impress you, Your Highness. I came to show the galaxy that humans deserve a place among the stars. Zithra's eyes flickered with something that resembled amusement. And you have done that. But there is something more, something that cannot be measured by strength alone. Aiden tilted his head slightly, intrigued. And what is that? Zithra stepped closer, her presence overwhelming. It is the spirit that you carry with you. The will to fight no matter the odds. That is what makes you a true warrior. That is why your people are worthy of our respect. Aiden found himself caught off guard by her words. He had expected to be treated with disdain, as humans often were when dealing with more advanced alien species. But this felt different. She wasn't just acknowledging his strength, she was recognizing his humanity. Before he could respond, Zithra turned away, her movements graceful and fluid. Come, she said, her voice quiet but firm. There is much to discuss. The invitation. Aiden followed Zithra through the winding corridors of the royal palace, his boots clicking against the smooth alien floor. The walls of the palace were adorned with intricate designs, glowing with soft, ethereal light that seemed to shift and change with every step. The architecture was unlike anything he had seen on Earth, but there was something oddly familiar about it. The palace seemed to echo with a sense of ancient history, a timeless elegance that spoke of an empire built on power and pride. Zithra led him through a set of grand doors into a private chamber. The room was vast, with windows that opened up to a stunning view of the alien world beyond, lush forests, towering mountains, and distant seas that shimmered under the twin suns. The air was cool, the breeze carrying a faint scent of alien flowers. It was a peaceful place, a stark contrast to the brutal arena they had just left behind. The princess motioned for Aiden to sit, gesturing toward a large table made of a dark, gleaming material that resembled obsidian. As he took his seat, Zithra moved gracefully to the opposite side, her gaze never leaving him. Aiden could feel the weight of her scrutiny, but he refused to shrink under it. His military training had taught him to endure far worse. Captain Ross, Zithra began, her voice calm but filled with an undeniable authority. What you did today was unprecedented. You fought with a strength and determination that we did not expect. You have proven that humans are not to be underestimated. Aiden nodded but didn't speak immediately. He had no desire for praise. He was here to ensure Earth's future in the galaxy, not to become a symbol of some idealized strength. Still, he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride at her words. It was rare for a human to gain the respect of a species like the Lurithians, especially one so powerful and proud. Zithra continued, her tone shifting slightly. But that is not why I brought you here. Aiden raised an eyebrow, his curiosity piqued. Then why? The princess paused for a moment, her gaze momentarily distant. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, as if she were sharing something deeply personal. You have shown us that there is more to humanity than just your strength. There is a fire in you, a drive that I have rarely seen in any warrior, even among my own people. It is fascinating. Aiden leaned forward slightly, sensing that she was about to reveal something important. I don't understand. What do you mean? Zithra's eyes locked with his, her expression intense. I mean that I see something in you, a quality that we Lurithians have not encountered in many species. The ability to endure. To keep fighting even when all seems lost. That is not a trait you find often among the stars. Aiden wasn't sure how to respond. He wasn't used to being analyzed this way. I'm just a soldier, he said almost dismissively. We're trained to keep going no matter the odds. We don't stop until the mission is complete. Zithra studied him for a moment as if weighing his words carefully. Then without warning she stood and moved to a nearby console, pressing a few buttons. The walls of the chamber shifted, and a holographic projection of the galaxy appeared before them, the stars twinkling in their places as though they were right there in the room. This, Zithra said, her voice now taking on a more serious tone, is the future we face. The galaxy is a vast and complex place, full of danger and uncertainty. The alliances we make, the enemies we create, they all shape the course of history. Aiden stood, walking closer to the projection. The map of the galaxy stretched out before him, showing hundreds of worlds, some familiar, others unknown. His eyes scanned over the familiar systems of Earth and the Lurithian Empire, but there were others as well, alien worlds that seemed to stretch beyond the limits of the known universe. He could feel the weight of the galaxy pressing down on him, the reality of the stakes becoming clearer with each passing second. Zithra pointed to a distant region of the galaxy, a section marked with a glowing red symbol. "This is the Crother Expanse," she said, her voice laced with a hint of concern. "A region that has long been considered dangerous. It is inhabited by a ruthless species known as the Crother, conquerors who have swept through countless civilizations, annihilating anyone who stands in their way." Aiden's heart skipped a beat. "The Crother?" he repeated. He had heard rumors of the Crother, but he didn't know much about them. The name alone sent a chill down his spine. Zithra's eyes hardened as she continued. "The Crother have set their sights on the Lurithian Empire. They've already begun to probe our borders, testing our defenses. We fought back, but they are relentless. And now they are preparing for an all-out assault." Aiden felt his stomach tighten. This was not what he had come here for. His mission had been to win a tournament, to secure an alliance. But this was an entirely different level of danger. "What do you need from me?" he asked, his voice steady. Zithra turned to face him, her eyes filled with an intensity that matched his own. "I need you to help us," she said simply. "I need you to lead a strike force into the Crother Expanse. We cannot fight this battle alone." Aiden's mind raced. He had been prepared for diplomacy, for making alliances, for navigating the complex politics of the galaxy. But this was a call to war, to something far greater than he had ever imagined. It was a fight for survival, not just for Earth and Lurith, but for every civilization in the galaxy that might one day fall under the Crother's ruthless conquest. He looked at Zithra, studying her with a new understanding. She wasn't just a princess trying to secure the future of her people. She was a leader, one who saw the broader picture and was willing to do whatever it took to protect her empire. But she also saw something in him. Something that made her believe he was the key to their survival. "I'll do it," Aiden said, his voice unwavering. "But we'll need a plan. We can't just rush in without knowing what we're up against." Zithra nodded, her expression serious. "We've already begun gathering intelligence. But we need more. We need someone who understands strategy, who can lead in the heat of battle. You are that person, Captain Ross." Aiden's gaze softened for a moment, his thoughts drifting to Earth. To his comrades, his friends, his family. They had no idea what was coming. But now, with the Crother threatening to tear everything apart, there was no turning back. He met Zithra's eyes once more, feeling the weight of the decision settle on his shoulders. "Then let's make sure we win this fight." The gathering storm. The following days were a blur of intense preparations. Aiden hardly had a moment to himself, his every waking hour consumed by strategy meetings, weapon training, and discussions with the Lurithian military command. Zithra was ever present, coordinating with him and the Lurithian officers, her focus unwavering as the weight of the impending conflict settled over them. Aiden's mind, however, was elsewhere. The gravity of the mission had not fully sunk in until now. The Crother Expanse loomed like a dark shadow in the corner of his thoughts. The Crother were not just another alien species. They were a plague, a warlike race whose thirst for conquest seemed insatiable. They did not negotiate, they did not offer mercy. Their method was simple: take everything and leave nothing behind. Aiden had spent countless hours poring over the intelligence the Lurithians had gathered. He saw firsthand how their ships were constructed, sleek, brutal vessels designed for one thing: war. The Crother had superior technology in some areas, their weaponry advanced and devastating. But what Aiden had learned from his own people was that tactics and determination could turn the tide of any battle. He was prepared to make sure this war wasn't decided by technology alone. The strategy sessions were brutal. The Lurithian officers, though skilled, were not accustomed to human tactics. They relied heavily on brute force, overwhelming their enemies with sheer might. Aiden, however, believed in finesse, in using the terrain, surprise, and coordination to level the playing field. He pushed hard for a plan that would take advantage of the Crother's overconfidence. If they could catch the Crother off guard, they might just stand a chance. At the heart of the palace, Zithra and Aiden spent countless hours in the war room. A massive holographic map of the Crother expanse filled the center of the room, glowing with points of interest and intelligence reports. The map flickered as they discussed tactics and resources. It was clear that the Lurethians, though powerful, would need Earth's military expertise to stand a chance. "We need to strike fast, hit them hard, and disrupt their supply lines," Aiden said, his voice firm as he pointed at key locations on the hologram. "If we can cripple their resources, we might buy ourselves enough time to break their momentum before they can fully organize." Zithra stood beside him, her posture regal, yet her eyes betrayed a trace of uncertainty. The Lurethians were not accustomed to ambushes or guerrilla tactics. They had always fought with honor, facing their enemies head-on. But in this war, such methods would be a death sentence. Aiden knew this, and it was his job to teach them how to fight like humans. The very thought felt strange but necessary. "I trust your judgment, Captain," Zithra said, her voice steady despite the storm brewing on the horizon. "But this will not be easy. The Crother are not like any enemy we've ever faced. They will fight with ruthless precision." Aiden met her gaze. "And that's why we need to outthink them. Every move we make has to be calculated." Zithra's lips parted slightly as if she were about to say something more, but she stopped herself. Aiden noticed the fleeting expression on her face, something unreadable but sharp. For a brief moment, the cool, calculated princess seemed more like a warrior herself, struggling with the weight of the decisions she had to make. He couldn't help but wonder what it would be like for her, the future of an entire empire resting on her shoulders. He could see now that Zithra was not just a princess. She was a leader, facing the harsh realities of her people's survival. The understanding between them deepened as they exchanged a long, silent look. "You're right," she said finally, "we will do this your way. Earth soldiers will fight as they always have, on their terms. We will adapt, and together we will end the Crother threat." The days that followed were filled with intense training and coordination. Aiden led the Earth forces, specialized soldiers who had been dispatched to Lurith to join the fight, through tactical drills and simulations. He taught them how to fight alongside the Lurethians, combining their strengths, blending the alien technology with human ingenuity. Meanwhile, Zithra worked tirelessly behind the scenes, rallying the Lurethian War Council and ensuring that the Empire's best warriors were ready for battle. As Aiden worked with the Lurethian soldiers, he couldn't help but notice how different they were from his own troops. The Lurethians were fierce, their physical prowess unmatched by anything Earth could offer, but their mentality was more rigid. They were used to overwhelming their enemies with force, to charging headfirst into battle. Aiden knew that strategy would be their key to survival, but getting them to embrace that concept wasn't easy. On the eve of their final briefing before they would depart for the Expanse, Aiden found himself standing alone on the balcony of his quarters, staring out at the alien landscape. The twin suns were setting, casting an orange hue across the horizon. He had always found solace in these quiet moments, away from the chaos of the battlefield. But tonight there was no peace. His mind raced with questions. Could they really do this? Could they defeat an enemy as ruthless and powerful as the Crother? It was hard to say. The Crother had one goal: destruction. They wouldn't stop until they had eradicated everything in their path. Aiden knew that if they failed, there would be no second chances. As the last rays of light faded behind the distant mountains, Zithra appeared at his side. Her presence was silent at first, but he felt it nonetheless. She, too, was staring out at the horizon, as if searching for answers that lay beyond the setting suns. "You've been quiet today," she said, her voice soft but carrying a weight of its own. Aiden let out a slow breath, turning to face her. "I've been thinking," he admitted, his voice lower than usual. "About what's coming. About the people we'll lose." Zithra's gaze softened, though her expression remained stoic. "I understand. This battle will not be easy and many will fall. But we cannot let fear cloud our judgment. We fight because we must, not because we want to." He nodded, the truth of her words sinking in. The weight of leadership was heavy, and Zithra carried it with a grace he had not expected. In the quiet of that moment, with the weight of an entire galaxy on their shoulders, they stood side by side, warriors, leaders, partners in a fight they could not afford to lose. The final countdown had begun. The war against the Crother was about to start in earnest, and the fate of not just Lurith but Earth hung in the balance. Aiden turned to face her. "Tomorrow we fight. Into the Expanse." The day of departure came with an air of foreboding, the quiet before the storm. Aiden stood on the bridge of the Lurethian flagship, Tharnath, a ship that dwarfed any vessel he had ever seen. Its sleek, alien design hummed with power, its obsidian surface reflecting the distant stars. The Lurithian fleet, a formidable armada of warships, was gathered around the flagship, ready for the assault on the Crother expanse. Earth soldiers, a mixed force of infantry engineers and special ops, were aboard as well, outnumbered but not outclassed. This was humanity's first true test in the galaxy. The mood on the bridge was somber, the quiet tension thick enough to cut through. Every officer, every soldier knew the weight of what they were about to do. It was no longer just a matter of winning a war, it was about survival. The Crother had no mercy, no empathy. They had already wiped out entire systems. If they succeeded, nothing would stand between them and galactic domination. Aiden's eyes moved over the warships. Each ship was sleek and deadly, armed with weaponry far more advanced than Earth's best military could even dream of. Still, he was not intimidated. He had led humanity's military through the worst battles on Earth, and he knew that tactics and determination could level the playing field. The Lurithians had their strength, but humans had their adaptability. The two would make a lethal combination. Zithra entered the bridge, her presence as commanding as ever. Her royal garments, adorned with the symbols of her house, swayed gently as she walked. Aiden noticed that she seemed slightly more tense than usual. Despite her composed exterior, he could see the weight of her decisions pressing on her. "Captain Ross," she said, her voice steady but with an edge that hinted at the enormity of the moment. "We are about to enter the Crother expanse. I trust your plan is ready?" Aiden stood straighter, his confidence bolstered by her question. "It is. We'll be striking at their supply lines first. If we can cripple their ability to move resources, it will slow their momentum and force them to spread their forces thin. We hit them fast and hard in the places they least expect. We'll use every advantage we have." Zithra nodded, her sharp eyes studying the star map on the wall. "The Crother have taken over much of the expanse already. Their forces are well entrenched and they won't take kindly to our intrusion. We'll give them a reason to," Aiden replied, a fierce edge in his voice. "They're not going to be expecting humans to fight like this. We'll be unpredictable, make them doubt everything they know about war." Zithra's gaze softened slightly, but she didn't smile. "You've earned my trust, Captain. And I trust that you will lead us through this." Hours passed, and the ships emerged from faster-than-light travel into the heart of the expanse. The vast emptiness of space stretched before them, a sea of blackness dotted with the occasional star. But Aiden knew the Crother were out there, lurking in the dark corners of the galaxy, waiting to strike. They had to act quickly. "Prepare to drop out of FTL," Aiden commanded to the crew. The Lurithian officer at the helm acknowledged the order, and the ship's engines hummed as the Tharnoth reverted to normal space. The moment the fleet materialized in the expanse, the sheer scope of the operation hit Aiden. Dozens of Crother warships were positioned along the trade routes, their presence imposing and deadly. The Crother had not yet noticed the Lurithian fleet's arrival, and Aiden intended to keep it that way. All units remained silent. "We engage on my mark," Aiden said, his voice low but commanding. His eyes scanned the digital readouts, tracking the Crother positions. The fleet was split into several groups, each with its own target. Aiden's plan was simple but dangerous: strike at key supply depots and communication hubs, disrupting the Crother's ability to coordinate and move forces. As the minutes ticked by, the tension on the bridge grew palpable. The quiet hum of the ship's systems was the only sound, broken only by the occasional beep from the navigational console. Aiden's mind raced through every possible outcome. One mistake, one slip-up, and the entire fleet could be wiped out in a matter of seconds. Zithra stood beside him, her regal composure unwavering, though he could see the tightness in her jaw. This was no longer a game, no longer a matter of pride. This was war, and the stakes could not be higher. "Now," Aiden commanded. The fleet moved in unison. The silent darkness of space was shattered as Lurithian and Earth ships descended on their targets. Energy shields flared as laser blasts collided with Crother defenses. The sound of space combat was far different than anything Aiden had heard before. No explosions or guttural sounds, but the sharp, crisp crackle of energy weapons slamming into shields and hulls. It was a ballet of destruction, with the Lurithian ships moving with precision, guided by their years of experience. But Aiden knew that it was their unpredictability, their humanity, that would be the key to victory. The first wave of Lurithian ships struck with brutal force. Crother ships, caught off guard by the speed and precision of the attack, were disabled within moments. But Aiden knew that the Crother would not go down without a fight. The Crother were relentless. The human force, while skilled, was outnumbered, and soon Crother reinforcements arrived. "Captain, we've got Crother reinforcements incoming," shouted one of the officers. More ships on the way from the central station. Aiden's mind raced. The fleet had to finish what they started before the Crother could regroup. Engage evasive maneuvers. Split the fleet into 2 groups. One will hold the line while the other hits their supply depot. We need to keep them off balance. Zithra moved to the communications console, her voice cold and commanding as she relayed orders to the Lurithian fleet. Hold your positions. Do not give them an inch. We are not backing down. Aiden turned to her, his eyes blazing with the fire of battle. We finish this now. No second chances. The battle raged on. Energy weapons tore through the silence of space as the 2 fleets clashed. Aiden's team led the charge, pushing forward with precision, their ships darting between Crother vessels. Earth's soldiers fought with the same unrelenting drive that had helped them survive the harshest conditions on Earth. Their tactics, honed through decades of conflict on their home planet, were proving to be the key to the Lurithian victory. The Crother retaliated fiercely, but the battle was far from over. Aiden's heart pounded in his chest, his instincts kicking into overdrive. Every second counted. The future of both their species depended on it. Status report. Aiden barked. The officer at the helm glanced up. We've disabled the Crother's primary supply line. Their communications are down. The second wave is retreating. Zithra allowed herself a small, triumphant smile. We've done it. For now. The price of victory. The battle had barely ended, yet the silence of space now felt like a heavy weight, a quiet reminder of the price of war. The fleet had won the first skirmish, one that had disrupted the Crother supply lines and communication systems, but Aiden knew this was only the beginning. The Crother were ruthless and they would not take this setback lightly. Their ferocity in battle was matched only by their unrelenting drive for conquest. As the Lurithian ships began to regroup, moving into defensive formations, Aiden stood at the command station of the Tharnath, staring out into the expanse of space. The damage to the Crother fleet was significant, but it was not a decisive blow. The Crother had lost precious resources, but they still held formidable strength. Aiden knew they would not retreat, they would come back and they would come back angry. Captain Ross, came Zithra's voice from behind him. He turned to see her approach, her expression stoic but her eyes betraying the same unease he felt. We've done well, but this is not over. The Crother will retaliate with everything they have. I know, Aiden replied, his voice tight with the tension that had been building since the battle had started. But we've got them on the back foot for now. We need to keep them guessing, keep hitting them where it hurts. Zithra nodded, her gaze shifting to the holographic map that now displayed the positions of both fleets. What's our next move? We cannot afford to waste time. The Crother will regroup and come at us harder. Aiden's mind raced as he reviewed the tactical options. The Crother were known for their brutal counterattacks, and they would be looking to strike back as soon as possible. They needed to exploit the weaknesses they had already uncovered. Their supply routes, their strategic outposts, and their overconfidence. The Crother relied too heavily on brute strength and might, often overlooking the importance of subtlety and strategy. We hit them where they least expect it, Aiden said, a plan forming in his mind. We've already taken out their primary supply depot. Let's take out another one before they can resupply. If we cut off their logistics, we cripple their ability to keep fighting. We'll use the chaos to launch another offensive, a quick strike to destabilize their leadership. Zithra's eyes narrowed as she considered his proposal. You're suggesting we go after their command ships? Aiden nodded. Exactly. If we can capture or destroy their command ship, we throw their entire fleet into disarray. The Crother have a rigid hierarchical structure. Without a leader, they'll be lost. As the Lurithian fleet readied itself for another strike, Aiden worked with his Earth Command team to fine-tune the operation. They would need stealth, speed, and precision, qualities that the Lurithians were not accustomed to. Earth's forces, though fewer in number, were highly trained in covert operations, and they would be the key to the success of this mission. Aiden briefed the team in the briefing room, a dimly lit space within the Tharnath. A holographic display projected the Crother's fleet composition in front of them, detailing their command structure and ship layouts. Several Crother capital ships had been deployed to the region, along with a number of smaller vessels that provided support and security. The mission was clear: infiltrate and disable the command ship, disrupt the leadership, and then exfiltrate before the Crother could mount an organized defense. We're not just going after their ships, Aiden told his team. We're going after their minds. We make them question their decisions and we send them into chaos. He turned to Zithra, who had remained silent during the briefing, but now spoke with quiet authority. Your soldiers are capable, Captain Ross, but the risks are considerable. The Crother will not underestimate us a second time. They will fight back with everything they have. I will send additional forces, but it is critical that we act quickly. Aiden glanced at the map again. The Crother fleet was slowly advancing, but they were still licking their wounds from the earlier strike. If they could move fast enough, they could disrupt the Crother before they had time to regroup. We'll move in under cover of darkness, Aiden said, tapping a few commands into the console. We'll take out their radar systems, slip in undetected, and hit their command ship from within. The Lurethians will provide support, but this is a ground operation. We'll need to get close enough to do damage and then get out before they realize we're there. The fleet moved swiftly through the silent expanse of space, the darkness enveloping them as they drew closer to the Crother's command ship, Chartek. The ship was massive, a fortress of metal and energy shields, and it was surrounded by a swarm of Crother warships. But Aiden had always believed that in war, it wasn't about overwhelming force, it was about precision. The strike team, composed of Earth's elite soldiers, infiltrated the Crother fleet under the cover of advanced cloaking technology provided by the Lurethians. The Tharnath launched decoy operations on one flank, drawing Crother attention while Aiden's team silently slipped toward their target. As they neared the Chartek, Aiden's pulse quickened. This would be the most dangerous part of the mission. One wrong move and the entire fleet could descend upon them. They moved like shadows, slipping into the massive hull of the Crother ship through a hidden maintenance dock. Their objective was simple: destroy the ship's command center and disrupt communication between the Crother leaders. The team moved swiftly through the corridors of the Chartek, their footsteps quiet against the cold metal floors. Aiden led the way, with Zithra following closely behind, her sharp senses on high alert. The Lurethian princess was no stranger to combat, and though her training was different, she moved with grace and deadly precision. They reached the central command area, a large chamber filled with Crother officers, their attention focused on the operations of the fleet. The officers stood, motionless at their stations, unaware of the human and Lurethian threat moving closer. Now, Aiden whispered. The team launched their assault, moving quickly to incapacitate the guards before they could raise the alarm. Within moments the command center was secured. But the mission was far from over. Aiden set the charges, placing them strategically around the core systems of the ship. Zithra approached him, her eyes focused on the central control console. We've done our part. Now let's get out of here. Aiden nodded. Time to leave. As they activated the charges, the first rumblings of destruction began to echo through the ship. The Crother command center was on the brink of collapse. The explosion would send shockwaves through the entire fleet. The team moved swiftly back through the corridors, their exit route mapped and timed precisely. As they emerged from the maintenance dock, the Chartek erupted in a blast of light, the sound of its collapse reaching them even in the vacuum of space. Aiden's heart raced as he watched the destruction unfold on the screen. The Crother leadership was in disarray. Their flagship, the heart of their strategy, was now nothing more than a shattered wreck. The dawn of resistance. The victory was not without its toll. As Aiden and Zithra stood at the observation deck of the Tharnath, watching the fading remnants of the Crother flagship flicker into nothingness on the distant horizon, the weight of their actions began to settle in. The Chartek had been destroyed, its command center reduced to rubble. The Crother leadership was in chaos and their fleet was in disarray. Yet Aiden knew better than to celebrate too early. The battle was won, but the war was far from over. Zithra's regal composure remained unshaken, but there was a flicker of something else in her eyes, something that mirrored the burden Aiden carried. Victory had its price, and the Crother were not a foe easily defeated. The humans and the Lurethians had dealt a devastating blow, but Aiden knew that in the depths of space, the Crother were already regrouping, already preparing to strike back with even greater ferocity. We've done it, Zithra said softly, her voice betraying the exhaustion she refused to show. But at what cost? Many of our soldiers, many of your people, Captain Ross, were lost today. You've won a battle, but the Crother will not forget this. They will come for us all. Aiden nodded grimly, his mind already shifting toward the next phase. We've made a dent, but it's just the beginning. We have to keep the pressure on them. If we let them breathe, they'll strike back with everything they have. Zithra turned to face him, her expression shifting from concern to determination. Then we will not give them the chance. You've earned my trust, Captain. I will fight by your side until this is over. Aiden's gaze hardened, his jaw tightening with resolve. We all will. This fight isn't just about our two species anymore. It's about the future of this galaxy. We can't afford to lose. As the fleet moved deeper into Crother-controlled space, Aiden reviewed the data coming in from their reconnaissance missions. The Crother were already shifting their remaining forces, consolidating their strength around a fortified system known as the Abyssal Crucible, an area surrounded by dense asteroid fields and black holes. It was a natural fortress, a place that the Crother had long used as a bastion against any enemy. If the humans and Lurithians were to defeat them, they would have to take it. Aiden turned to his tactical officer, a sharp-eyed Lurithian named Valine, who had been overseeing the fleet's movements. "What's the status of the fleet?" he asked, his voice steady but urgent. "Fleet is ready, Captain," Valine responded, his face grim. "We've lost several ships, but we have enough firepower to make another strike. The Crother are regrouping, but they don't yet know how badly they've been crippled. We still have the element of surprise." Aiden glanced at the map of Crother territory, his mind ticking through possibilities. The Abyssal Crucible would be difficult to penetrate, even with the Lurithian ship's advanced technology. The area was heavily guarded by Crother warships, and the dense asteroid fields would make navigation treacherous. But Aiden wasn't one to shy away from a challenge. He had seen humanity face far worse odds and come out victorious. "We'll move in under the cover of darkness," Aiden said, his eyes scanning the map. "The Crother will expect us to attack head-on. We'll use their overconfidence against them. We'll send in a diversion fleet to draw their attention, and then we strike at the heart of their defenses." The fleet moved into position, the ships cloaked in the void of space, ready for the next phase of their daring offensive. The Abyssal Crucible loomed ahead, a jagged ring of asteroids and swirling gravity wells that made the area one of the most dangerous in the galaxy. The Crother knew their territory better than anyone, but Aiden knew the best way to defeat an enemy was to exploit their expectations. The diversion fleet, a small but deadly group of Lurithian ships, began its attack on one of the Crother's outer stations. It wasn't meant to last, just a quick strike to pull the Crother's attention away from the real threat. As expected, the Crother responded immediately, redirecting their forces toward the attack. This would give Aiden's fleet the chance they needed. "We're moving in," Aiden said, his voice calm but full of purpose. The order was given, and the human and Lurithian forces surged forward, breaking through the asteroid field toward the heart of the Abyssal Crucible. The Crother, distracted by the diversion, failed to anticipate the true assault. The battle that followed was intense, a deadly dance of ships maneuvering through the asteroid field with deadly precision. The Crother fought back with brutal efficiency, but Aiden's fleet had the advantage of surprise and the unpredictability that humanity had become known for. The Lurithians, with their superior technology, provided the firepower, while the humans handled the tactics, exploiting every crack in the Crother defenses. The clash was violent, the dark expanse of space illuminated by the brilliant flashes of energy blasts. The Crother ships, once formidable and unyielding, were being overwhelmed. Aiden could feel the tide turning. The Crother had expected an easy victory, but they were now fighting for their survival. But even as the Crother were pushed back, Aiden knew the war was far from over. They had won a significant battle, but the Crother would not surrender. The destruction of their flagship and command center had been a blow to their morale, but the Crother were relentless. They would find new leaders, reorganize their forces, and come back with renewed vengeance. The battle raged for hours, the fleet moving with coordinated precision as they struck at key Crother positions, targeting their weapon systems and command stations. Slowly but surely the Crother began to fall back, their remaining ships retreating into the abyss of space. As the last Crother ship vanished into the darkness, the fleet paused, floating in the vast emptiness of space. The immediate danger was over, but Aiden knew that their enemies would not simply disappear. The Crother would regroup, but now they knew that humanity and the Lurithians were a force to be reckoned with. Zithra stepped beside him, her expression solemn but proud. "You did it, Captain. We've struck a blow against them. The Crother will never forget what happened here." Aiden's gaze remained fixed on the stars. "This is just the beginning. We've fought well, but the real battle will come when they decide to return. We have to be ready for them." Zithra placed a hand on his shoulder. "We will be. Together we are strong. And the galaxy will see the power of humanity and the Lurithians united." As the fleet began to regroup and prepare for the next stage of the war, Aiden looked out into the infinite void of space, the stars shining brightly against the dark backdrop. He knew there would be more battles, more sacrifices, but he also knew that humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer in doubt. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting HFY stories. Your support means the world to us. And make sure to tap the bell icon so you never miss an update. Stay tuned for our next adventure, and until then, keep exploring the stars. See you in the next video.